The orbital silence around Virilon 9 was not the comforting kind. It was the hollow, yawning quiet of something forgotten. Dead planets had a way of humming still, radiation bleeds and magnetic winds muttering through their decay, but this place was a vacuum of memory, a graveyard scrubbed too clean. The only sound that broke the silence was the irregular sputter of the Osprey's grin's external stabilizers, one of which had been patched with chewing foil and a prayer. Elias Jaron didn't mind. He liked when the ship grumbled. It reminded him it was alive. Or at least, that it hadn't killed them yet. Approaching the object now, came Tao's voice through the comm, a sharp static buzz accompanying her words. Looks like some kind of bioship. Hulls laced with, well, something not on our charts. Elias snorted and adjusted the cuffs of his grease-streaked jacket. Everything out here's not on our charts. That's why we charge double. The viewing screen bloomed to life as Tao pivoted the camera drone closer. The object looked like a vessel, but it breathed, just slightly. Not metaphorically either. The thing had organic curvature, like it had been grown, not built. Veins of soft luminescence pulsed across its surface, trailing into a cracked spinal ridge that bled a faint green glow. Looks like a metal jellyfish mated with a cathedral, Elias muttered. With a minor bone disease. Lovely mental image, Tao replied. Suit up. You're the one who wanted to poke mysterious relics with no backup. He couldn't argue. He'd practically begged for this detour. Something about the signal, the pulsing, encoded heartbeat that came through the void, had whispered directly to his instincts. And Elias always followed his instincts, even when they led him into the business end of things that hissed. 10 minutes later, his boots clanged against the alien hull. The surface was softer than expected, pliable underfoot, and the entrance opened with a sigh, like the bioship itself had been holding its breath. Inside, it was cold. Not the harsh mechanical chill of derelict freighters, but a biological cold, like the breath of something hibernating. The walls pulsed softly, responding to his footsteps. Veins of light flickered with his motion, leading him inward. Then he saw her. Suspended in a transparent membrane was a figure, tall, lithe, and armored. The chest plate was fractured, spiderwebbed with impact lines. Her body was curled slightly, arms across her chest, legs drawn in. Her skin was smooth, not unlike human, but a silver sheen glinted beneath the pores. Her hair floated around her like dark ribbons. And her ears, long, delicately tapered, rising past her head, twitched once. Tao, he whispered, breath frosting his visor. There's someone in here. She's alive. The moment he said it, the membrane hissed, retracted, and dropped her onto the floor. She didn't fall like a human. She landed like liquid, then sprung up like a weapon, eyes wide and black as obsidian. Elias didn't move. Didn't breathe. Something primal inside him screamed to run. She tilted her head. Her ears twitched. Then she lunged. He didn't remember falling, but suddenly he was flat on his back, her armored forearm across his throat, her fingers glowing with a dangerous pulse just above his temple. Don't move, she hissed. Elias blinked. Hi. She frowned. I'm Elias. You're very shiny. And terrifying. Love the ears. For a moment, silence. Then she exhaled, through her nose, a barely audible sound. She stood. Swift. Fluid. Dangerous. You touched the ship, she said, voice clipped and odd, like someone had taught her the language in reverse. You woke it. Right. Guilty. We do that sometimes. Wake ancient alien tech. Have a snack. Nothing serious. She blinked again, slower this time. The glow in her hands faded. Elias sat up, coughing. Okay. So. Introductions out of the way, you got a name? She hesitated. Kiri. Well, Kiri, welcome to the Osprey's Grin. Sort of. You're technically still on your ship, which may or may not be alive and mildly annoyed. Kiri glanced down at her chest plate. It had cracked along the left seam, revealing faint circuitry and what looked disturbingly like muscle fiber. She touched it, grimaced. Elias, perhaps stupidly, moved closer. I can try to fix it. I'm pretty good with. The moment he reached out, she grabbed his wrist, firm and immediate. Careful, she said, voice lower. Different. And in that one word was everything he hadn't expected, fear, hesitation, and something else. He looked up, eyebrows raised. You mean the armor's gonna bite me? Or is this a more metaphorical kind of danger? Her eyes lingered on his. Touch is not safe. Elias grinned, slow and charming. Well, then I suppose it's a good thing I'm famously reckless. She didn't laugh. But her ears twitched. Later, back aboard the Grin, the crew stared at her like she might explode. Kiri sat rigidly at the conference table, surrounded by people whose languages and customs were as alien to her as she was to them. Elias sat beside her, trying not to smirk as Tao launched into a scolding. You brought an unknown genetically engineered alien woman aboard, Tao said flatly. Yes, Elias nodded. Without scanning her. She would have zapped the scanner. Without asking her permission. She was busy holding me at neck point. Do you even know what species she is? Elias glanced at Kiri. Do you? Kiri raised an eyebrow. No. That shut Tao up for a moment. I have, fragments, Kiri offered, her voice more measured now. My mind is not whole. Not yet. Memory loss, the ship's medic asked. Design, Kiri said. I was not made to remember. Well, that's ominous, Elias muttered. Can we program her to forget how bad my jokes are too? Kiri tilted her head. Jokes. Don't encourage him, Tal snapped. Elias leaned closer to Kiri and whispered, that was a joke. She frowned, as if sorting through emotional algorithms. I'll need to fix her armor, Elias said. The bioship systems are bleeding into her suit. If it keeps syncing with her, it might rewrite her biology. Kiri's voice was soft. It already is. A silence settled in the room. Heavy. Confused. Then Elias stood. All right. Let's pretend we're not wildly in over our heads. Kiri, would you like a tour of the ship? Maybe a snack. We've got freeze-dried noodles. And one very old banana. She stared at him. You don't know what a banana is, do you? Kiri stood slowly. Show me. He grinned. That's the spirit. And as the two of them walked down the flickering corridors of the Osprey's Grin, the bioship left behind began to pulse again. Its lights flickering not with systems, but with rhythm. Like a second heartbeat. Like an echo. Like something watching. Waiting. The air recycler on the Osprey's Grin had a persistent wheeze, like a small animal trapped in the ductwork trying to whistle jazz. Elias claimed it was part of the ship's personality. Tal claimed it was grounds for a lawsuit. Kiri said nothing about it at all, only that the sound helped her sleep, though Elias suspected she was lying. The alien woman slept like a sentry, spine straight, eyes never fully closed. Her ears twitched at the faintest creak. It was endearing in a way that made him want to apologize for every noise the ship made, which, on average, was one every 6 seconds. They had left the ruins of Virulon 9 behind, coasting now through the Sable Drift, a lawless stretch of old trade routes littered with microasteroids, signal ghosts, and the occasional pirate with more enthusiasm than firepower. The Grin wasn't fast, but it was unpredictable, and unpredictability was a kind of armor. Elias was in the workshop bay, elbow deep in a half-disassembled plasma kettle, when Kiri stepped in. She moved like a shadow trained in ballet, quiet, elegant, and somehow always at the exact angle to make him knock something over. "You need quieter boots," he muttered, clutching a wrench like a weapon. "Or a little bell. I'll attach it to your ear." She ignored the comment, eyes on the spread of tools and parts on his workbench. "These things, they are crude." "They're beautiful," he replied, mock-offended. "This, for example, is a multifunctional thermospanner. It's also a bottle opener and, in emergencies, a fly swatter." Kiri picked it up delicately, turning it in her fingers. "It vibrates at a frequency similar to my armor's failed plate." Elias blinked. "Wait, seriously?" She nodded. "I could feel it from the corridor." He stared, then let out a low whistle. "Remind me not to play any music near you. You'll start vibrating through walls." "I already do that," she said. He paused, then grinned. "See, that's funny." That was a joke. Kiri's face remained neutral, but her ears flicked in a way that he was starting to recognize as her version of amusement. He cleared a spot on the bench. "All right. Let's take a look at this death trap you call armor." She stepped forward, unfastening the top segments of her chest plate with a practiced ease. Beneath the cracked plating, strands of biocircuitry glowed faintly, pulsing with an inner rhythm. Her skin shimmered where tech met tissue, like metal had kissed her and left a permanent mark. Elias swallowed hard. "So, when you said, 'touch is dangerous,' were you being poetic or literal?" "Both," she said. "The armor responds to biological proximity. Specifically, to individuals I am synchronized with." He froze, screwdriver hovering midair. "I'm sorry." "Synchronized?" "It began when you stabilized my pulse in the bioship. A subconscious bond. Now the armor responds to you. Like a clingy pet. Like a co-evolving neural tether," she corrected. Elias blinked. "Yeah, that's what I said." He reached in, tools steady despite the flickering nerves in his fingers. The moment he touched a node, her body tensed, but not from pain. The circuits flared a soft blue, tracing lines over her collarbone. She exhaled slowly. "Do not linger." "Noted." He worked in silence for a while, tension humming between them like a taut wire. Every adjustment he made was met with a whisper of light, a pulse of warmth through the armor. And yet she never flinched, even as he dismantled and reassembled parts of what was essentially a living exoskin. "Your species," he said finally, "was designed for this kind of tech." "I was designed," she said softly. "My species, we were born. But I was made." A divergence. Elias frowned. "You're saying you're a prototype?" "I am the last of the Diplethra line. Meant to merge diplomatic interface with strategic control. I was never finished." "Well, that's ridiculous," he said. "You seem pretty finished to me." Kiri glanced at him, expression unreadable. "I do not malfunction as often as expected. That's the nicest thing anyone said to me this week." She tilted her head. "Do your kind value sarcasm?" "Only when we're terrified or flirting," he said before he could stop himself. Silence. Then, to his eternal surprise, Kiri said, "And which one are you doing now?" He dropped his screwdriver. Elsewhere on the ship, Tal watched the sensor readouts with a growing knot in her gut. The bioship fragment they'd recovered was transmitting again, soft pulses, like sonar, echoing back from regions of space they couldn't see. Something had heard them. And it was calling back. She opened the comm. "Elias, we've got to bounce." The intercom crackled. "Bounce like a friendly hello or bounce like something wants to chew on us?" Tal hesitated. "Unknown. But it's triangulating our jump signature. Whatever it is, it's old tech. Pre-collapse. Maybe older." Kiri's voice came on the line, calm and grim. "It's them." "Who?" Tal snapped. "The ones who built me. Elias looked at her. Wait, you said you didn't remember them. I don't, she said, standing now, refastening her armor. But my body does. As the alarm klaxons began to thrum softly through the ship, Kiri's ears went rigid. She turned toward the viewport and whispered, "We need to move. Now. Should I be worried that the last time you said something like that, I woke up with a cracked rib?" Elias asked. Yes, she replied. Right. Cool. Just checking. The crew scrambled. Engines flared. Coordinates punched. And just as the Osprey's grin leapt into slipspace, a ghost emerged in their wake. An obsidian vessel shaped like a thorn, silent, pulsing faintly with the same rhythm as Kiri's armor. It did not pursue. It simply watched. Waiting. The jump from the sable drift had left the Osprey's grin rattling like an old freight cart on a magnetic roller coaster. Slipspace was never gentle, not for a ship built out of salvage and stubbornness, but this time it had felt personal, like the universe had yanked them by the collar and flung them into the nearest safe pocket of reality just to make a point. The ship groaned in protest. Somewhere deep in the wiring, a fuse sparked and died with a dramatic hiss, and the lights flickered to half intensity before returning to their usual dim, flickering glow, which Elias liked to call murder mystery ambience. He was hanging upside down from a maintenance shaft, legs hooked over a pipe, tinkering with a burst capacitor, when Tal's voice echoed through the corridor. "You're upside down again, aren't you?" "Nope," he called. "Gravity's just being difficult. I need you on the bridge. Give me 5 minutes and a miracle capacitor." There was a pause. "We have guests." Elias sighed and dropped with a grunt, hitting the floor like a sack of wrenches. "Of course we do." When he reached the bridge, the first thing he noticed was the stars, specifically, the lack of them. Outside the viewport was an expanse of gray-black, empty of movement, of light, of anything familiar. They had jumped into a dead zone. No signal beacons. No comm traffic. Not even cosmic background radiation. Just silence. Kiri stood near the far console, her posture unnervingly still, eyes fixed on the void. She hadn't spoken since they escaped the pulse. Elias had tried everything, jokes, questions, even offering her the last protein cube, which he'd later regretted when he remembered it tasted like peppermint and regret, but she hadn't responded beyond a distracted nod. Tal pointed at the console. "They're here." Defined they. Kiri answered without turning. "Echoes. Sentinels. Warden forms." "Right. Not creepy at all," Elias muttered. Outside the ship, 3 glimmers emerged, dull, skeletal craft shaped like folded bone in starlight. They moved with glacial precision, as if pulled on invisible threads, circling the grin without haste or aggression. Elias could feel the hair on his arms rise, even though he hadn't believed in intuition since his 3rd attempt at deep fryer repair. "They're scanning us," Tal said. "But I don't think they're looking for us." Kiri nodded slowly. "They're looking for me." Elias leaned over the console. "Then let's give them a decoy. Can we vent the forward bay and launch something shiny?" Tal gave him a flat look. "This is not a children's magic show, Elias." He shrugged. "Could be. Depends on how you define fun and explosions." But the humor didn't cut the tension this time. Kiri finally turned, and when she looked at him, something in her had changed. Her expression wasn't cold, just concentrated. Like someone reading a book written in her own blood. "I need to show you something," she said. "Should I be scared?" "Yes." "Good. I was worried I was relaxing." She led him down into the aft med bay, where the bioship shard had been stowed in a sealed cryochamber. The fragment was small, just a curving piece of hull laced with organic matter and dormant light, but it thrummed gently as they approached. Kiri placed her hand on it, and the lines of bioluminescence flared. "This," she said, "was never just a ship. It was a seed. Elias squinted. Like an alien apple tree. She frowned. A construct designed to awaken with the right emotional resonance. My people built them as interstellar diplomats. Vessels that could speak every tongue, sense every tension. But they feared what might happen if such vessels learned desire. Attachment. They pruned the code. Locked it behind biochemical inhibitors. You're telling me you're a diplomatic spaceship with intimacy issues? Yes, she said, completely serious. Elias tried not to laugh. I've dated worse. Kiri continued, ignoring him. But when you touched me, when you chose not to fear me, the system responded. The inhibitors began to fail. And now the seed is growing. Okay, so hypothetically, what happens when the seed fully sprouts? Kiri's voice dropped. I become something else. More dangerous. Not to you. That's comforting. She placed his hand against the shard. For a moment, nothing. Then light bloomed beneath his palm, warm, golden, pulsing like a heartbeat. He felt something brush his thoughts, not a voice, not words, but a presence. Curious. Ancient. Watching. He jerked his hand back. Okay. That was mildly alarming. They will come now, she said. To see if I've become unstable. Have you? She hesitated. I don't know. Back on the bridge, Tal was already spooling the jump drive, but the sentinels outside had closed the loop. They weren't attacking, just waiting. Elias slid into the co-pilot seat. What's our play? We wait, Kiri said, stepping forward. They'll test me. And what if you fail? Then I become obsolete. No pressure, Elias muttered. The lights dimmed. Every screen on the bridge blanked. A single line of alien text scrawled across the viewport. Kiri stepped forward. Her armor began to glow, lines of code flickering across her arms and chest, syncing with the pulse outside. What are they doing? Tal whispered. Running diagnostics, Elias guessed. But with psychic lasers. Kiri stood perfectly still as a beam of light connected her to the lead sentinel. Her breath hitched. Elias gripped the console, helpless. Elias, she whispered. He stood. I'm here. Don't come closer. Too late. She turned, and her eyes weren't black anymore. They were gold, bright and burning, and the pulse from the bioship fragment was now flowing through her veins. Her voice cracked. I don't want to change. Then don't, he said. You're not a program. You're a person. You don't understand. Maybe not. But I trust you. Even if you vibrate through walls and talk to haunted seed ships. Her ears twitched. The light dimmed. The sentinel released the beam. Kiri staggered, and Elias caught her before she fell. Outside, the sentinels shifted course, gliding away silently, vanishing into the void. Tal let out a breath. That was anticlimactic. I'll take anticlimactic over death beams any day, Elias muttered, still holding Kiri. She looked up at him, voice raw. They judged me stable. That's good, right? No. It means they're watching. Great. Galactic babysitters. Her eyes softened, just slightly. You keep joking. It's the only thing I'm good at. And for the first time since the jump, she smiled. Just barely. But it lit the room better than the ship's broken lights ever could. The ice moon of Orsic didn't orbit so much as loiter. It drifted near the edge of the Geller system, swinging in lazy, elliptical paths like a dog too old to chase its tail. Elias once described it as a snowball with abandonment issues. Tal didn't disagree. The moon was cold, sharp-edged, and entirely uninhabited, a perfect place to hide from ancient AI sentinels and romantic entanglements that triggered evolutionary code. The Osprey's grin asterisk landed with all the elegance of a drunk goose. Elias muttered apologies to the stabilizers while patting the console like a wounded friend. Outside the viewport, wind scraped endlessly over glacial ridges, carving patterns into the ice like forgotten calligraphy. "This place is peaceful," Kiri said quietly, wrapped in a borrowed thermal cloak several sizes too big for her. The hood sagged, making her long ears poke through like antennae. Elias had insisted on it because, in his words, "you might be a hyper-evolved alien warrior, but frostbite still sucks." "You sound surprised," Elias said, thumping his boots on the floor to shake off the cold. "It's got all the charm of a haunted freezer, sure, but give it 5 minutes, it'll grow on you." "I do not wish to be grown on." He smirked. "It's a figure of speech. Not an infection." Kiri didn't answer. Her eyes were on the swirling sky, gray clouds reflecting faint starlight through the planet's thin atmosphere. The ice beneath them crackled with quiet, living sound. Tal's voice came through the comm, "Ships powered down. Signal dampeners are live. If anyone's looking for us, they'll be bored before they find a trace." "Just like every date I've ever had," Elias replied. Kiri tilted her head. "You often compare danger to romantic failure." "It helps me cope." The crew had converted a nearby research outpost, long abandoned, half buried in snowdrift, into a temporary shelter. Power was patchy. The lights flickered like they were afraid of the dark, and the only functioning heater was in the mess hall, which meant all major discussions took place next to an old vending machine that dispensed expired electrolyte paste in 5 flavors, all of them despair. Kiri sat beside the heater, hands curled around a cup of something almost, but not quite, like tea. She stared into the steam. "My mind is fragmenting." Elias, seated cross-legged on a crate, paused mid-slurp. "That's alarming." She looked up. "I do not mean it literally. My memories, they surface unpredictably. Not all of them are mine. Some belong to previous hosts." "Hosts?" Tal asked, leaning on the wall nearby. Kiri nodded. "The Diplothra line was an interface species. Our code adapted through generations, passed from one genetic vessel to another. Each iteration stored echoes of the last. Like ancestral memory." "Yes. Except mine were sealed. Until now." Elias scratched his chin. "Let me guess. The unsealing happened sometime between touching the bioship fragment and emotionally bonding with your new mechanic friend?" She said nothing, but her ears twitched. "Cool. Just making sure I'm the catalyst of a potential identity crisis. It's good to feel important." Kiri put down her cup. "One memory, it is persistent. A place. A song. I do not know if it's real." "Describe it." Her voice softened. "A sky made of crystal threads. A choir that does not breathe. A city carved into a comet's spine. And laughter. Mine, but not mine." Tal whistled. "Either that's a poetic hallucination, or the most metal music video location ever." "I think it's a key," Kiri said. "To understanding what I am. What I'm becoming." Elias leaned forward. "And what do you think that is?" "I don't know." She looked at her hands. "But I want to find out before they do." "They?" Tal asked. Kiri didn't answer. Outside, the wind howled like a warning. That night, the outpost systems overloaded. Power flickered, alarms hissed, and every screen on the ship lit up with the same pulse of gold light, a spiral sigil with 7 arms, spinning silently. Kiri shot awake. Elias burst in with a fire extinguisher. "I heard a noise and assumed something was on fire. Possibly me." "It's a message," she said, fingers flying over the interface. Encrypted in old Diplethra. Tal arrived behind him, half-dressed, hair a cloud of static. It better not be a spam call. It's a location, Kiri said. Coordinates. A place called Karth En Rai. Elias squinted. That sounds important. And potentially flammable. It was one of the last Seed Corps sanctuaries, she said. Before the war. What war? The one that erased half the diplomatic species across 5 galaxies. Elias blinked. And I thought politics were bad now. Kiri stood. If the memories are correct, Karth En Rai houses a failsafe. Something built to undo me. Elias frowned. Undo. Reset. Remove emotional convergence. Reassert control protocols. No, he said firmly. No resetting. No factory default. You're not a toaster, Kiri. She almost smiled. I do not wish to be reset either. Then we're not going. We have to. If I can get there first. I might be able to rewrite it instead. Tal raised an eyebrow. Rewrite a failsafe built to deconstruct a living interface species. Kiri nodded. Elias exhaled. So we're doing this. We are, she said. Cool. Just one condition. What? He pointed at her. You have to wear a scarf. This is an ice moon. It's tradition. Kiri stared. Why would I? Tradition, he said again, grinning. She sighed and accepted the ridiculous red wool scarf he offered, wrapping it carefully over her cloak. You look like a diplomatic snow wizard, he said. She arched an eyebrow. Is that a compliment? Absolutely. And for a moment, just a flicker, her ears relaxed, and her lips curved upward. Not quite a smile. But something very close. Slip space jumps were a lot like microwave dinners, loud, occasionally unstable, and not recommended more than twice in a day unless you wanted to glow in the dark. Tal had reminded Elias of that exact fact as she locked down the NAV core, but he just smiled and said, at least if we combust mid-jump, we won't have to file a report. It was unclear if she'd rolled her eyes or attempted a psychic attack. Now, the Osprey's grin emerged from slip space above Karth En Rai. The sanctuary did not loom like other derelict relics. It floated. Suspended in a cradle of magnetic rings, the station shimmered faintly, caught in the gravity well of a dead star. Its outer shell spiraled like a seashell, layered with plates of obsidian gold and organic latticework. Pulses of light ran through its spines, soft, steady, like breathing. I was expecting more ruin, Elias muttered, squinting at the viewport. You expected something that once housed a reality-warping failsafe to look worse? Tal asked. I don't know. Maybe some ominous fog. Cracks. A "Do not enter" sign written in 13 dialects of doom. Kiri stood at the helm, unusually quiet. Her armor had shifted during the journey, reshaping itself. The plating along her arms was more angular now, etched with runes that flickered like embers under her skin. Elias had joked that she looked like a particularly fashionable lightning rod. She had not disagreed. Karth En Rai responds to biosignatures, Kiri said at last. It will recognize me. Elias looked her over. Recognize you how? As a guest or a target? She gave him a long, unreadable glance. Both. The docking process was smooth, eerily so. As soon as they approached, the station's outer ring slowed, aligning like the petals of a flower, opening a corridor of soft golden light. The docking clamps extended without hesitation, latching onto the grin with gentle precision. All right, Tal said, checking her weapon. So far, no one's tried to vaporize us. That's a good start. That you know of, Elias added. I might already be vaporized. I've always suspected I was mostly steam. The interior of Karth En Rai was not dark. It should have been. Most ancient constructs were half-lit, dust-choked tombs littered with rust and silence. But this place thrummed with warmth. Vines of glowing data filaments twisted along the walls, feeding into nodes that pulsed softly at their approach. The walls were smooth, curved, almost biological. Somewhere in the distance, faint music echoed, no instrument, no rhythm, just tone, pure and crystalline. Atmosphere's breathable, Tal said, scanning. Which is weird. This station's been adrift for centuries. No mold either, Elias noted. I mean, that's just good architecture. Kiri walked ahead, and the station responded. Panels illuminated under her feet. Doors slid open without a whisper. The air tasted faintly of ozone and citrus, like rain on alien soil. They reached a central chamber. Vast, cathedral-like, with a ceiling that shimmered like liquid glass. A dais rose from the floor, surrounded by monoliths etched with rotating sigils. At its center stood a terminal, shaped like a blooming orchid, but made of light and metal. This is it, Kiri said softly. The convergence cradle. Elias looked around. Do I want to ask why it sounds like the name of a very intense yoga class? This is where Diplethra interfaced with the seed core, she continued. Where our minds and code were bound. And this failsafe, what does it do exactly? If I engage with the cradle, it will run a purity scan. If my code has diverged, if I have become unstable, it will initiate correction. Tal stepped forward. And if you haven't? Kiri's jaw tensed. Then it may offer a choice. Elias crossed his arms. And what does that mean? I don't know. Well, that's perfectly terrifying. Kiri removed her gloves, stepped onto the dais, and pressed her palms against the terminal. The response was immediate, a flare of light, then silence so deep it seemed to press inward on their skulls. Then came the voice. Not spoken, not heard, asterisk felt star. Like thoughts whispered in the hollow of their minds. Identity, duplicate unstable. Emotional convergence detected, asterisk asterisk. Run correction protocol Y/N, asterisk asterisk. Elias stepped forward. She's not unstable. She's alive. Unstable biocode requires stabilization, asterisk asterisk. Primary individual selected, Elias Jaron, asterisk asterisk. He froze. Wait. What? Me? Kiri turned toward him, alarm flickering in her gaze. It's linked you. The seed recognizes you as the catalyst. Well, I didn't mean to. I was just trying to keep your armor from imploding. Proximity link confirmed. Biological tether active, asterisk asterisk. A beam of light engulfed them both, and Elias's knees nearly gave out. He saw flashes, memories not his own. A world made of song. A child with 2 long ears laughing under a glass sky. A war that silenced stars. He staggered. Kiri, what is this? She was trembling now, eyes glowing with gold and something deeper. You're seeing me. Option, integrate emotional convergence. Lock bond. Stabilize entity, asterisk asterisk. Y/N asterisk asterisk. I don't know what that means, Elias whispered. Kiri's voice was strained. If you say yes, we become something else. Something bound. It won't just be affection. It will be, code. Soul. Shared. Permanent. He looked at her, heart thudding. And if I say no? I will forget you. The silence held like a breath between them. Elias blinked. Well, hell. He reached for her hand, interlaced his fingers with hers. Why, he said. The cradle pulsed once, then again, like a second heart starting to beat. Stabilization complete. Emotional convergence locked. Entity designation, unified, asterisk asterisk. Kiri collapsed into him, and Elias held her tightly as the light dimmed. Tal stared from the edge of the dais. So, just to clarify, you didn't get vaporized. Elias grinned, breathless. Nope. Kiri looked up, her voice soft. But he did get upgraded. He blinked. Wait, what? And somewhere deep in the station, something else stirred, no longer watching, but awakening. The return to normal space wasn't a thunderclap or a burst of light. It was soft, softer than Elias had expected. A shift, like slipping back into your own skin after wearing someone else's. The Osprey's grin drifted into orbit above Virulon 9 once more, completing the loop. The stars outside were familiar now, worn in like old boots, and for the first time in weeks, there was no pulse of danger threading through the hull. Just silence. Peaceful, suspicious silence. Elias stood at the forward viewport, arms folded, watching the dead planet spin lazily below. His reflection in the glass caught his eye, something about it had changed. Not dramatically. He still looked like a man who forgot to comb his hair and carried at least 3 tools in every pocket. But something deeper shimmered beneath the surface, just behind the eyes. He felt bigger somehow. Like his thoughts carried more weight, like he could feel the ship breathing. Probably because he could. Thinking of jumping again, came Kiri's voice, smooth and low behind him. Only if it's into a vat of pudding, Elias said. Or possibly a quiet beach. Somewhere without ancient alien protocols or weird glowing memory vines. She stepped beside him. Her armor had transformed, no longer the segmented shell of a soldier, but a woven shimmer of biocircuitry and silk-like panels. A living blend of technology and self. She looked regal, but without the distance. Her ears still twitched when she was amused, he'd come to cherish that detail. We're tethered now, she said gently. I'll feel that pudding desire if you commit. I'll try to keep my snack fantasies internal. Tal entered the bridge then, carrying 2 mugs of something that might have been coffee or possibly failed fuel cells. You 2 lovebirds better not be considering another detour. I just got the navigation panel to stop hissing at me. Just tying up threads, Elias replied. The metaphorical kind, not the wiring. Though that too. Tal raised an eyebrow and handed him a mug. You've changed. Is it the glowy veins? He asked, holding up his wrist. Faint gold patterns curled under the skin like tattoos drawn by moonlight. More like you finally shut up long enough to think about something. He grinned. Harsh, but fair. Kiri set her mug down carefully. I've accessed more of the seed core. What happened at Karth En Rai, it stabilized the line. Others like me, interfaces, echoes, they may still exist. And now they'll come looking for you? Tal asked. They might. Or I might go looking for them. Elias gave her a sidelong glance. Do I need to get jealous of other mysterious alien diplomats? You're already tethered, she said. Emotionally and biologically. He raised his mug in mock salute. Guess I'm off the market. But not off mission, Kiri added. There's a trail encoded in the cradle's last pulse. An ancient one. Leads into the Orvian fold. Tal groaned. That place is a nightmare of black holes and broken math. Perfect honeymoon destination, Elias said. Kiri's smile was small, but real. They spent the next 3 days at Virulon 9's outer ring, scanning wreckage and sending automated beacons into the system to broadcast that the seed core's failsafe had been neutralized. Quietly. Carefully. There was no announcement, no great triumph. Just an ending folding into a beginning, like night giving way to morning in the orbit of stars. In his downtime, Elias returned to the engine bay, his temple, his fortress of solitude. The tools felt lighter in his hands now. Or maybe he was stronger. Not in the muscular sense. But in the way a man becomes stronger when he's stopped running from who he is. Kiri joined him sometimes, not to fix things. Though she was getting unnervingly good at diagnostics, but just to be. She sat cross-legged on a crate, watching him work, occasionally asking questions that blurred the line between engineering and philosophy. Why build something that will break, she'd asked once. Because fixing it teaches you how to make it better. And if it breaks again, then you fix it again. Or you invent something new. She'd nodded at that, slowly. Resilience. I think I was meant to suppress that. Then it's a good thing you malfunctioned. Her ears had twitched. The crew met in the mess hall on the fourth night. The heater was still half broken, and the table tilted at an annoying angle, but the vending machine had finally produced something edible. They shared stories, laughter, a few terrible impersonations of galactic diplomats. Elias's was particularly offensive, and toasted to not being vaporized this week. After the laughter faded, a gentle quiet settled. Kiri stood. I don't know what I'm becoming, she said softly. But I know I'm not alone. And I don't have to be. Tal raised her mug. To strange journeys. To found families, Elias added. To choice, Kiri finished. They clinked their mugs. Later, as the ship prepared for its next jump, Elias walked the corridor alone, fingers grazing the humming walls. He could feel the ship's pulse now, not just as noise or vibration, but as something close to language. A rhythm. A presence. In the core chamber, the bioship fragment, now fully integrated into the Grin systems, flickered with gentle light. He touched it and whispered, "You awake in there?" A pause. Then a warm pulse. "Good," he said. "Because we've got stars to chase." Behind him, Kiri appeared in the doorway. "Ready?" He turned. "As I'll ever be." She stepped beside him. "You're not the same man who woke me." He tilted his head. "You say that like it's a bad thing." "No," she said. "It's the best thing." And as the Osprey's grin turned its nose toward the Orvian fold, into the storm of space and time and memory beyond comprehension, Elias reached for her hand, not because she needed him, but because he needed her. Together, they jumped. And somewhere, far in the distance, a star long thought dead pulsed once more.